Hi, I'm Josh, one of the mentors on the course, and I'm based at the British Council Teaching Centre in Bilbao, here in the Basque Country on the north coast of Spain. Anyway, it's a miserably wet day here, so I'm inside. Otherwise, I'd be sharing the beautiful Basque countryside with you. But I hope that wherever you are, you're having a good day and it's all good with you. So this week we've been sharing ideas about classroom learning and classroom culture and comparing more naturalistic approaches to language learning and with classroom instruction, and also looked at a couple of approaches, task-based and content and language integrated learning, sometimes called CLIL. So I'm going to summarize what I've read of your comments and what they've made me think about. And I've pinned the comments that I'm mentioning to the top of the steps if you want to go and look at them. So as always, I can't read all of your comments, but there's lots of stuff that's made me think. And at the beginning, we asked you to say what you wanted to get from this week on the course. I think several people said they wanted new ideas about effective approaches to try. So I hope I've seen a few people say that they've appreciated the ideas here, and others shared challenges that they wanted help with, like how to motivate unmotivated students. I think what I always look for in the comments are things that make me think about my own teaching practice and question what I do, and whether I should try something new myself and change how I'm teaching or how I'm learning. So some of the conversations about teacher roles made me think about that. I think some people asked on step 2.2, well, is it really the teacher's role to motivate the students, or should we expect students to come motivated and make an effort to learn themselves? And I suppose I have always felt the need to try to do my best to make classes interesting, obviously, but also to motivate students to give them reasons for learning. But I do sometimes wonder whether by doing too much for them in this respect, we're not helping them to develop their own grit and determination and motivation for learning, their own strategies for managing their learning. So that was something that made me think. Also, you mentioned lots of other factors influencing classroom cultures or learning communities, like this online learning community that we're in here, and different things that affect whether these are conducive to learning or not. Maybe like the other students on the course and whether they make you feel welcome, and whether people's behavior is conducive to learning, cultural differences about whether to make contributions or whether to listen quietly or whether to question and challenge the teachers. So there's lots of stuff to look at there that's interesting. And I think one of the things that it made me think about was my own classroom management and how you manage different personalities, different behaviors, different attitudes. There's a great course on Futurelearn that we've pointed to in one of these conversations about managing your own your own behavior in order to manage your learners' behavior. And also people mentioned classroom layout and how this can affect behavior in the community of learning and whether it's conducive. I think by having people in a semicircle, you can often feel like you can control the class better than having groups working around tables. But someone was talking about their own learning experience and feeling very exposed in the kind of semicircle where the teacher and everyone can see you layout. So the classroom layout and the classroom furnishings might interact with the ways we learn. I think someone mentioned daydream posters, which sounded like a good idea to me. I was imagining the kinds of posters you might have around your classroom so that when students kind of drifted off, they noticed something on the poster and maybe they learned from that. I thought that was an interesting idea. Anyway, to move on now to task-based learning, I guess one of the we can relate this to the earlier conversation about motivation. One reason for using tasks is related to motivation and making language learning more meaningful and authentic and obviously relevant to the things that a learners might want to do with the language that they are learning. But of course, very often learners are motivated by the need to pass an exam, and there was a great conversation about how assessment and the kinds of assessment, how those kind of feed back into teaching approaches, and of course whether or not task-based approaches are the best ways to approach some kinds of exams. There was also a comment about the inclusion of conviviality in one of the definitions of a good task, and conversation there around whether teachers need to try to make learning fun for the students or whether that is a kind of unnecessary extra. I'd be interested in more opinions about that. And finally, then there was the conversation about CLIL, content language integrated learning. I think it was very helpful of Alithia to point out a video that distinguishes between soft and hard approaches to CLIL. I think I understood it essentially as soft approaches make cross-curricular links from foreign language classes to other subjects, as opposed to actually teaching the other subjects in a foreign language. Certainly the kind of soft CLIL approach has been beneficial for me when I've had students that were very concerned about exams in other subjects or something, and we were able to use that concern and that motivation in English to make revision videos, for example, that they found helpful and useful, but also practiced and stretched their English. And also some people mentioning drawbacks of CLIL. I think Pamela shared an experience of someone being able to speak about their subject area in a foreign language, because that's how they'd learnt it at university, but not able to speak about it in their own language. So I wondered how common that experience is and whether people would want to share their thoughts about that. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to next week and sharing your ideas about the opportunities afforded by the internet and other new technologies for language learning and how this changes the ways we can learn languages. And in fact, we've already touched on that in step 2 of this week with Nicholas and Jane, both starting conversations about the roles of teachers and technology and how technology can change roles and perhaps even replace teachers or replace some of our roles. And I think that's a great question for someone like me mentoring on a course like this. You know, is it possible that an artificial intelligence chatbot could replace a lot of what I do? It's definitely something for me to think about, and it makes me think about what I do and how I can make that more valuable. So thank you for listening this far, and I look forward to seeing you all on the course next week.